Guys, we can all learn
I
it.
cannot tell you how obsessed I am with this chart. It shows exactly what is wrong with America's conversation about healthcare.
Okay, maybe not.
If you believe the dead...
I thought they were actually gonna you know... guys, I thought they were gonna explain properly. It looks like it's gonna spark a debate. Guys, chat wars... Okay, I'll play then.
On one level, you've seen this chart before. It shows healthcare spending as a share of the economy of a bunch of countries. There's Germany and France and Japan and Canada and oh, there's America. But now I want to add something you haven't seen to this chart. This is how much of that spending in each country is private and how much is public. Here's what's amazing. America's government spending on healthcare, on programs like Medicaid and Medicare and the VA, our versions of socialized medicine, it's about the same size as these other countries. These countries where the government runs the whole healthcare system. And then there's our private spending. It's the private insurance system that makes healthcare in America so expensive. Conventional wisdom says the government is more expensive than the private sector. It can't say no, it's corrupt, it's inefficient, it's slow. You want something done right, you give it to the private sector. That is what we hear in America all the time. And yet here we are with the biggest private sector spending the most. Why is a free market so bad at controlling the cost of healthcare in the United States? If you look at the data on physician visits and hospital discharges, you can get rid of one theory. Americans don't consume more healthcare than people in these other countries. We don't go to the doctor more than the Germans or the Japanese. In fact, we go to the doctor less. The difference between us and them is that we pay more. Every time we go to the doctor for everything from an angioplasty to a hip replacement, from a C-section to a pain reliever, in America, the price for the same procedure at the same hospital, it varies enormously depending on who is footing the bill. The price for someone with public insurance, like Medicare or Medicaid, is often the lowest price. These groups, they cover so many people that the government can demand lower prices from hospitals and doctors, and they get those lower prices. If the doctors and hospitals say no, they lose a ton of business. They lose all those people on Medicare, all those people on Medicaid. But there are hundreds of private insurance companies, and they each cover far fewer people than a Medicare or a Medicaid. And each one has to negotiate prices with hospitals and doctors on their own. And if you're uninsured, you have even less leverage. Nobody is negotiating on your behalf, so you end up paying the highest price. One study found that most hospitals charge uninsured patients 4 times as much as Medicare patients for an ER visit. Other countries, they don't have this problem. Instead of every private insurance company negotiating with every healthcare provider, there's just this big list. Country, the central government, they go and they say, if you want to sell to us, to all of our people, then here's what you can charge for a checkup. Here's what you can charge for an MRI or a prescription for Lipitor. And so then whether that bill goes to the heavily regulated private insurance companies in Germany or directly to the government like in the UK, each country is telling the doctor or hospital or drug company how much that bill will be. And because the government controls access to all of the customers, it's an offer that hospitals and doctors and pharmaceutical companies typically can't refuse.
I'm going to make them an offer he can't refuse.
In America, the idea is that you'll be a consumer, that you'll do what you do when you go to Best Buy and buy a television. But that just doesn't work in healthcare. It doesn't work in healthcare because you often come and get healthcare when you're unconscious in an ambulance, when you're scared, when it's for your spouse or your child. It is a time when you have the least bargaining power. You are not usually capable of saying no. You're not knowledgeable enough to do it, you're not comfortable doing it, or you're not conscious enough to do it. That's why in other countries, the government is a person
Change title,
no
why?
for you.
Are we not just heading?
That's too expensive. You're gonna have to lower your price because they do have that power.
Uh-oh.
A new push for single-payer health care right here in the U.S.
Single payer! Now!
California and others are saying maybe we should adopt the European model.
If we decide...
Wait, was I on Battlegrounds the entire time? Mods?
decided to create a single-payer system with one of these huge price lists in the U.S., there'd be nothing to stop lobbying from hospitals, from doctors, from drug companies, and those prices would get influenced. So we could end up with a single-payer system that is expensive, even as expensive as our current system. It all depends on how much you negotiate down the prices. And now in America, these groups have so much power because they are so rich that it's really hard to get them to bring down the prices. This is the irony of American healthcare. It's so expensive that it's become hard to make it cheaper. All that money they make, that becomes political power. And years and years and years of overpaying, those are huge industries now. And they have a lot of influence in Congress.
Okay, here it comes.
Under a single-payer system, if we did drive prices down, doctors and hospitals, they would be paid less than they are right now. That might mean some of them close, or some go out of business, or some move. It would be really painful. One person's waste is another person's essential service or local hospital.
I'm so confused. Guys, if they're overpaying themselves, dude, if they get less money, shouldn't they just resize their payments and rearrange their finances?
Go out of business or some move. It would be really painful. One person's waste is another person's essential service or local hospital or their income. But then single payer, it's not an all or nothing choice. For instance, there's a really interesting section of Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All bill where he lays out this interim plan. It's a plan he wants while he's setting up his new single payer system. And in that plan,
they're
he
too
extends
greedy.
Medicare to cover
Okay, then they deserve to close then.
Opens it to nearly everyone, not just people 65 and older. All kids go on Medicare automatically and most adults can buy in. That plan on its own, it wouldn't get American healthcare spending far down overnight, but it would at least begin to recognize what we already know and what most other countries already do. That healthcare is one of those things the government can do cheaper and better than the private sector.
Well, that was pretty good. Okay. Chad, that was informative. Everybody got mauled, dude. Jesus, man.
Hi.
Jesus Christ, man. Chill the fuck out.
Can return to haunt the living? You're not alone. According to one poll, 45% of Americans believe in ghosts.
Okay, well this is fucking troll, dude. Chad, do you believe in ghosts? I'm pulling it.
Big.
I'm pulling it. Believe in ghosts? Which mark? Yes. No.
Which soy boy says, I like creative better than survival for Minecraft. For real creative got me xQc sleeper. Soy boys omega lol.
This is actually this is a very stable vote. Holy shit. I rarely see polls be this stable ever before. It literally said 70% at the beginning and it never stopped.
And 28% claim to actually have seen a ghost. They show up in our movies,
I see dead people.
books, and Bone Thugs and Harmony music
xQc
videos.
dab.
As far back as we can trace human life, there's evidence that almost every culture has expressed curiosity about what comes after. Many people believe in them, but is there actually any proof that ghosts exist?
Ghosts aren't real, yo.
I went to Buffalo, New York to talk to Joe Nickel, a paranormal investigator who's been trying to answer that question for almost 50 years.
Guys, think about it. Every time we talk or think about ghosts, we're scared. We think negative. We think killing, hurting. We think it's gonna haunt us. But we never think about, what about the positive ghosts? If ghosts are real, why wouldn't one or a couple of them be nice? Why wouldn't they give you money or give you help or heal your wound? Have you ever thought about that? Why are all ghosts negative? Couldn't they help?
Only
but yet they never happened.
Salaried professional science-based paranormal investigator. I'm looking to explain a case, not debunk it, not promote it, explain it.
Nickel is a true Renaissance man, drawing from a wide variety of disciplines for his cases.
I mean, at one time or another, I've used linguistic analysis. I've used blood pattern analysis, psychological insights. Nearly anything could be used if it would illuminate a particular case.
So in the hundreds of cases over his half-century of investigation, has he ever found anything that would make him believe in ghosts?
Not only have I never found a single case that I thought was proof of a ghost, neither has science. Not a single ghost or haunting has been authenticated by science.
Part of what makes it difficult to investigate is all the different ways people have defined ghosts. Books flying off of a shelf? Ghost. Orbs and photos? Ghost. Mysterious footsteps in the attic? Ghost. Patrick Swayze seductively helping you throw a vase? Definitely ghost.
Stop,
all of the
man.
would-be evidence that ghosts exist consist of ambiguous photographs, videos.
The next day, his HD TV literally begins rocking violently from side to side all by itself.
And first-hand accounts.
Even if it's during the day, there's this eerie feeling that you get that there's someone there.
Which, while fun and spooky, are not exactly scientific proof. Ghost hunters often use gadgets such as EMF meters, a
Number
tool that
15.
measures electromagnetic fields, which ghosts can supposedly manipulate. But nobody's been able to explain exactly what the link is, and most scientists are pretty skeptical of this stuff. So there might not be any empirical scientific evidence that shows that ghosts exist, but that doesn't actually mean that you're crazy if you think you see one. There are plenty of logical explanations for paranormal experiences. One is infrasound, a sound that falls below the audible 20 Hz frequency. Infrasound can be produced by many things, including severe weather, humpback whales, or certain machinery like engines or fans. Researchers have hypothesized that exposure to infrasound can induce feelings of depression, chills, and the sense that somebody's presence is near you. The sound can even cause visual hallucinations.
At the frequency of 18 hertz, it resonates with the structure of the human eyeball. And if you have a sound that resonates with something material, it'll make the material vibrate at that frequency. And when that happens to you, your eye begins to see things that are in fact not there.
Swiss scientists have also been able to simulate a ghost in a lab. They made a robot that mimics the movement of the subject's hands with a mechanical arm that touches your back, but with a slight delay. When you delay the movement, it creates an unmistakable sensation for subjects that there's a ghostly presence in the room.
This time it really felt like I was playing with something, so it wasn't myself that was poking me in the back, but it was as if I was playing with an animal monkey that was poking me in the back or something like that.
While most ghost sightings can't be written off as a robot poking your back, this experiment does highlight how manipulating certain parts of your brain can produce what researchers calls misperceived self-representation, which can easily be misconstrued as a ghostly presence. Sometimes even just a person's state of consciousness can make them feel or see.
What if you touch your own booty?
We can actually
is that arousing?
See ghosts, and those tend to be waking dreams that occur in the twilight between being fully asleep and fully awake.
These kind of waking dreams can also be called sleep paralysis, which about 8% of people experience at some point in their lifetime. You feel like you're awake, but you're unable to move your body, and it's often accompanied by terrifying visuals like shadows, people, or even monsters, which, if you didn't know what was happening, would be easy to confuse for having seen a ghost. Another possible explanation for ghostly sightings is grief. One study found that up to 60% of people that lose a spouse claim to see or hear their dead loved ones. In his book about hallucinations, neurologist Oliver Sacks said that seeing the face of a deceased loved one can actually help you cope with your grief.
This sort of hallucination is not frightening, it's often very comforting. It seems to be part of the mourning process, and it really, a sudden hole has been left in one's life, and this helps it to heal over.
I had an old lady. It was the friend of my grandma, dude, and she had like daily hallucinations, dude. And she would say like, "Oh yeah, my husband. Yeah, I still see him. I see him in the flowers. I see him in the paintings. He talks to me." And at first I was like, "Jesus Christ!" And I was like, "Yeah, that's true, man. Maybe it gives her comfort, you know."
There are a few exceptions. But all have to do with our hopes and our fears. We're hopeful that ghosts exist because then we don't really die. Our loved ones are not gone from us. They are real and alive. I remember when my grandmother died and how much I did not want that to be the case. But the ghost idea, the idea that we just get up out of our bodies and continue on, is powerful. Because who doesn't have an instance in which he or she would say, "I just wish I could have told my mother this one thing," or "I wish my father knew I wasn't really mad at him that time."
So ghosts may not actually exist, but that doesn't mean that you might not see one.
You refuse to listen to anything that somebody that bites his fingers all day says. Thanks, man. Or would you believe in somebody that puts his finger up your mom's butt? Okay. Let's just go next game. That's the next game, boys.